Namaste everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel Roots of Analytics. In this session, we'll see what is primary key constraint and why we are using primary key constraint. As of now, we have seen what is constraint and why we are using constraint and what all benefits we are having when we are using constraint. Also, we have covered what all type of common constraints are there in SQL. Also, we have created one table and we have seen like how we are using this constraint. We have covered what is not null, what is unique, what is foreign key, what is check, default, index, as well as primary key. We have completed this practical as well by creating one table. Now we'll see what all what is the primary key and why we are using primary key. We'll do in-depth analysis on the primary key because like going forward when we'll enter into advanced SQL, so the primary key will play a major role to combine multiple tables. For an example, going forward, we'll have multiple tables, and as per the business requirement, we have to connect those tables to get the insights from the data. So in that case, like we'll be connecting multiple tables. So at that time, primary key and foreign key, these two key will play a vital role to combine the multiple tables. So we should have idea like what is primary key and what all functionalities it is having. Similarly, also we have to see what is foreign key and what all functionalities it is having. We'll see now what is primary key. A primary key in SQL is a column or set of columns that uniquely identifies each row in a database table. It is a crucial element of relational database design, enforcing data integrity and allowing for efficient data retrieval and the establishment of relationship between tables. So mostly we are using primary key to establish the relation between multiple tables. So it must, and what all like the main conditions for a primary key, it must be unique for all records. So what all records will be we are having in a table, it needs to be unique for each and every row for that primary key column. It cannot be null. So all the value in that column cannot be null. So we need to have some value for each and every row. So each table can have one primary key. So when we are defining a table structure, we can only consider only one column as a primary key, and that is the max number we can take in a table. And a primary key can be a single column or combination of multiple columns, and the combined column must be unique across all rows. For an example, if you want to define a primary key in a table and we want to define using multiple fields or columns, that also we can do it. But when we are doing it, its value needs to be unique for each and every line item. So also primary key can be defined when a table is created or added to an existing table using alter table. For an example, I have already created one table, but I have not defined primary key for that table. So I can also do that by modifying the table. So as you know, we have already covered how to modify a existing table, that we can do it using alter table. Similar same command we can use to do changes or like to add a primary key to an existing table. So for that we can use alter table keyword. Yes. And if you are using alter table, the column must already be defined as not null. And if you want to define a column as a primary key and in a existing table, at that time the column should be defined as not null. We cannot have null values in a column, like if you want to define that column as a primary key. So that is like the only condition we have to see when we are defining a primary key for an existing table. So we'll see like what all queries we are using when we are defining the primary key. So if you are creating a new table, the query which we are using, that is like column, data type and constraint. So here if I want to define a primary key for a new table, simply we have to take the column name as I have taken here, student ID. Then I have to define the data type, integer I have taken over here, and I have to take the constraint. So here I have taken the primary key as a constraint. So in this way we can do it for all constraints. But if you are adding a constraint, like a primary key constraint to a existing table, how we can do it? So for that, we are using alter table command, and we are after that we are taking the table name, and we are using add keyword. So add primary key. If you want to add a primary key, simply we have to do add primary key. Then we have to take the column name. For an example, if I want to consider a existing column in a existing table as a primary key, simply we have to do like I have to use the add primary key command, and we have to take the column name. In this way, I can add a primary key to one existing column and existing column of a existing table. So creating composite or primary key. What is composite primary key? So like when we are defining a primary key for multiple fields. For an example, I am having three columns and I want to use all those three columns as a primary key. That also we can do it. So that is the multiple value primary key. That also we can do it. It is called as a composite primary key. So composite primary key is nothing but combination of multiple fields. Is called as a composite primary key. It can also be done by in this way. So we have to define its primary key and country code and plate number. For an example, I have defined when I'm creating a new table and starting I have taken country code, I have taken plate number, and down below what I can do in the last, I can use the primary key. If I want to take these two columns as a primary key combinedly, simply I can write primary key, country code and plate number in a parenthesis. In that way, I can get a composite primary key. Let's see it in SQL how these queries are working. So let's go to SQL. Now we'll see by creating one new table using primary key. As you remember, if you remember, like we have already created one table called constant practice. So I will be taking this query only. I am down below. I'll be putting it over here, and I am trying to create a new table. So what I am doing here, constraint practice new. So here what I have taken. So if I want to define a primary key for a column, how I can do it? Simple thing. First I have to take the column name. Then I have to take the data type of that particular column. Then only I have to define the constraint. Here you can see I have defined the constraint primary key. So and similar way I can do it for all these columns, and what all constraint I want to use, I can take it over here. You can see for country I have taken default value India. For mobile number I have taken unique. So for each and every row value should be unique. And the product ID I have taken not null. So an age I have taken integer. It's a check. So it should be like the condition which I am using over here. Age should be greater than 18. So in this way I want to define, if I want to create a primary key for a column, I can define it over here. If I'll execute this query, it will create a new table and it will have a primary key. So ID will be a primary key. And if I want to, if I don't want to define the primary key over here, and I want to say like the product ID and ID will be my primary key combinedly. So composite primary key which I was discussing. So that I can do. Here I will take ID integer as not null. And down below what I'll do, I'll create one primary key. So what I can do, primary key. Then what I'll do, I'll take in the parenthesis, I'll take ID. Then I'll take the product ID here from here. So this is the product ID. So if I'll execute this query, so we'll have a primary key using multiple fields. Let's execute this query. Sorry, I have taken one here. So ID. So if I'll execute this query, it will create a new table. See, our table is being created. But when we'll check the column and details, let's go to database. Let's go to training. Let's go to table. Then I'll go to this is the table name, constraint practice new. I'll go to the column list. So here you can see ID. I have taken then country I have taken, mobile I have, product ID I have, age I have, but I am not having primary key here, like the ID or product ID. So like we are already having a column. I just define this combination as a primary key. When I'll try to join any data to this table, at that time I will consider this combination as a primary key. So that is the use of composite primary key. So similarly, if I want to make adjustment to an existing table, so I'll be creating one new table here, and in that I will not define primary key for that table. Then how I can define a primary key for that particular table? So here I am removing this composite primary key field. I want to define primary key for the ID. So I want to create this table. Now it's created. I want to define ID as a primary key. How I can do it? It's all like the way we are altering any table, the similar way we can do it here. So I will write alter table. This is the alter table command we have to use. Then the table name we have to take. This is the new table name. Then what we are doing? We are adding constraint, primary key constraint to ID. So add primary key. So add primary key. Then how will I'll do it? Add primary key to ID column ID. So if I'll execute this query, see now our the ID is a primary key. So in that way, I can modify an existing table to add a primary key. If you have any doubt, please put it in our comment box. I'll bring new video on your comments. Thank you. Take care.